Today I'm going to give you a little spoiler alert. Today's sermon will be part of a 3-part series, my first series. And I say that in case it's bad, so you can still be like, oh my gosh, for the first time, that was wonderful. But the series is going to be titled The Discomfort of Growth. Over the next 3 weeks, this week plus 2 more, we're going to talk about what it feels like when God is enlarging us, when we're being poured into bigger spaces than what we've known up until this point. So today is Enlarge Me. Thank you, Charles, Luke, and Ephesians. And we'll probably circle back to Ephesians again on week 3. Next week, it'll be Stretch Me, because enlargement is tense, and there are growing pains. And then on that 3rd week will be Fill Me, which will cover the promise that God, when God does stretch us, we're not left empty, that there is a pouring in of sorts, and an overflowing of God's Spirit. So today's part of a bigger story. So if it feels cliffhanger-y, which I have worked to not make it so, but if it does, we'll be right back to this next week. Which also means for my worship planners, I already know the scriptures and the text and the titles for the next 2 weeks. I don't think... Praise God, from whom all blessings flow. So, I am growing. This is going really well. I haven't even started seminary yet. Just you wait, okay? So today's sermon begins at the airport. In May, I was on the way to Fabulous, Fierce, and Sacred in Philadelphia. And there's no nonstop. There are more nonstops from Wichita to other places than there used to be that I want to go to, but there is not one to Pennsylvania and Philadelphia. So I had to stop in Chicago, which I don't like. I like going to Chicago in a nonstop flight. I don't like stopping in Chicago. It is mayhem, and I have to walk 1,000 Mennonite miles to get to the next gate. No matter what happens, it is never, I don't get off at G1 and then have to go to G2. I get off at G1 and have to go to Greek alphabet A over in another place, and I got to stop for a snack, and I long for the little wheelchair or the go-kart person, and then I'm like, I don't need it, but I sure could have used it. Like, all of that happens internally, and I'm like, lately I like going through Dallas or Houston unless I'm going north. I cannot reconcile going backwards to go forward. That's another problem. So flight planning for me is always very complex. And lasts well into the midnight hour anyway. So I get to Chicago. Once the plane lands, I joined everyone else in the groupthink behavior of disembarking from a plane. I really wish someone would study what happens when that little bell rings and you just finish taxiing. Everybody stands up. You hear the collective popping of knees, necks, and elbows and joints. You hear all of the social media apps, some appropriate, some not. Everyone is calling someone on the phone. All of the text tones are ringing and blaring as we come out of airplane mode. As soon as that door opens and the little bridge thing is connected, it is a mad dash to get off the plane. I understand if you are late and your connecting flight is leaving in 7 minutes, but that is not everybody's story. But it just seems like everyone is fighting and pushing and wanting to be the first off of this collective plane experience. You got to hurry up and get your bag. You got to reach on top. You got to make sure you didn't leave your glasses, your phone, or your iPad in the front seat pocket. You then have to hope that you can squeeze past the people that are pressing, like thronging the door, just to get off. And I have just found myself stuck in that routine as well. You get your bag, then you hurry up and walk real fast like you're in a mall speed walking power walk competition to get through the tunnel until you finally open that door and you are released into the rest of the people who will soon have this experience too. Somehow you think if you're getting to your connecting flight that you being there as fast as you can will guarantee that the plane does not leave without you. It is not true. I have seen planes leave without a plenty of people. So that day in Chicago, as the little thing dinged, I was like, I got to do something different today. I don't know why that was the case, but I just knew I could not be part of this particular group of sheep today. Instead of rushing, I took my time. When that little bell rang and the little door popped open, I just looked around me as everyone else hustled and bustled. Once there was a little space big enough for me to slide out, I did, and I sauntered through the tunnel as people sped by me like I was doing 30 under on the highway and looked back at me to see if I had a visible disability to explain why I was moving so slow, as they sighed and rolled their eyes and were generally just mad because I had chosen my own race and pace. Once in the terminal, I looked around and walked a few steps to an empty gate, and I sat down. I sat down, I let myself breathe. I sat down, I read a quick chapter of the book I was already reading while I regulated my nervous system and got myself together. There was no pressure, no hurrying, no need to prove my speed walking prowess to anyone. It was stillness, and for me, a small act of rebellion. I looked around and it was as if I was in slow motion and everyone else was at like 5x super speed. I realized that I wanted more of that for me. More slowness, more softness, more ease, more living at my human pace, my sustainable pace. And it wasn't because I was injured or needed an accommodation, though I might, but because I wanted to choose how I want it to be. I made that my prayers. I thought it would be the beginning of a new season. This is what I prayed for. A new season of intentional ease. What I did not know is that it was going to be the beginning of a season of discomfort. Because truth is, when I prayed for ease, what I actually received was a heap of confrontation. I had to confront how I was showing up in the world and how other people perceived, fed in, enabled, or encouraged that. I had to set new boundaries. I had to use my voice in ways that were vulnerable. I had to say no when people up till then expected yeses. I had to advocate for myself, sometimes in ways that left me all shook up. I thought choosing ease would make life easier or softer, but instead it made life sharper. And I found myself saying, wait a minute, God, this is not what I prayed for. Surely we have a miscommunication. So there's a line in a movie. Okay, let me see. There's a franchise of movies called Bruce Almighty. It's a Bruce Almighty franchise. Some of them are named a little different. And Morgan Freeman plays God in Evan Almighty with Steve Carell. And during there's a part that I think is actually at a bar. I don't remember if God was hanging out at the bar, but there's a part when Steve Carell needs patience or he needs courage, and Morgan Freeman says, "Let me ask you something. If someone prays for patience, you think God gives them patience, or does God give them the opportunity to be patient? If you pray for courage, does God give them courage, or does God give them opportunities to be courageous? If someone prays for the family to be closer, do you think God zaps them with warm, fuzzy feelings? Or does he give them opportunities to love each other?" That line speaks to how we engage in the work of faith in prayer while God is doing their part. We pray for things, and sometimes the answer to that prayer is God enlarging us with opportunities that require the thing that we're asking for. That is what is happening to me and what I believe is happening for us. I prayed for ease, and what I got was an opportunity to build boundaries. God did not give me ease the way I wanted it, like a gift in a box. God enlarged me and said, "Here is the room. Now grow into it." So now I'm going to do a little illustration. I'm going to need my handheld mic, please. Is this thing on? Yes. All right. Thank you, Kristen, for helping. So thank you, Vanna. I didn't want to sit it out earlier because I always filter what happens through what I would think. If I saw that sitting here and I was sitting there, I wouldn't have been able to focus on nothing until I knew what that was for, because it is an anomaly. And so thank you, Kristen, for the idea for the bring out. So here we are. Here are my illustrations. We have our divine capacity. This is God and the capacity and you and all that you can do beyond what you could ask or think. Here's you right now. I'm gonna show you your current capacity. And this is your enlargement. So right now, up till now, whatever age you are, 10 or 72, here you are. This is your life, your prayers, your family, your children, church life, your responsibilities, your giftings, your purpose. And you've been doing okay. Like, you've been managing, you've been making it. And here we are in this season of discomfort. Here we are, you're 12 and you're at a new school and you're like, oh my God, these kids are bigger than me, or I used to be the biggest fish in a small pond and now I'm the same size fish in a bigger pond. What is this? And the instinct is to say, you know what, I'm good though. I'm cool. I'm fine. No, I'm fine. It's like the meme with the trash can on fire and everybody's like, no, I'm fine. So right here, you're like, I'm great, I'm doing it. You get uncomfortable. It'll be fine. You pour some water on the floor. You pour it in the sink. But maybe right now, we're not going to say it's fine. So maybe that discomfort, you're like, okay, something is weird. Something's changing. Something's different. And what has actually happened is that. Here's some things that you don't want anymore. Here's the I don't want to rush through the airport. Here's the I don't want to go to the grocery store like a Tasmanian fool and just sweep things into the cart because I got to do it in 36 minutes because I have a meeting in an hour. Maybe that doesn't happen to you. Maybe that's only me. Here is, maybe I'll get gas before I know I keep bringing up this gas thing, but I just did it again. So I haven't learned either. But maybe I'll just get gas right now instead of waiting till the morning. Maybe I'll eat before I'm hungry and don't almost faint as I walk to the kitchen. So these are the things, discomfort, yes, but these are the things you're saying, okay, I can't live like this anymore. So God says, okay, cool, sure. So I'm going to pour all of what me and you have worked on and who you want to be and who you are over here. So, and I'm going to give you a little extra just for good measure. So here's how we're starting. All right. You are at about the same capacity, so it looks like. Okay. But from here to here, now it's insecurity. From here to here, it's you're not as full as you used to be and don't know what's going to fill up the rest. So now there's tension. Now there's discomfort. But the reality is you are technically, from a volume perspective, you're no different than what you were in the other cup. But now in this new capacity, now the part of you that you want to stoke is in this cup. The grace that God says, while you're changing, I won't leave or forsake you, is in this cup. And now there's capacity for more. That is enlarge. I'm going to switch to my other mic. In that larger cup, you haven't lost anything. The water is still there with a little more, but that bigger container, oh, it don't look so full. Now you feel like less. Now you feel insignificant. Now you're looking at all the other cups and maybe you see a bucket and you're like, oh, well, why couldn't I be a bucket? know. I agree, Stephanie. Like, what? Well, I could have been a bucket god. Now you'd have made me this plastic cup. These are 82 cents at Walmart. Why I couldn't be a chalice? And it's like, just a minute ago, you were just talking who you didn't want to be. I've made you something different. Is discomfort. The new ain't good enough and the old is better. This is the tension of growth. God pours us into something else and we feel like something is missing. I was reminded of this during MinnowCon and the constituency council meetings this year. We were asked in both places, what would we look like? How would we live in this fractured world if there were no institutions? They burned down, they fell apart, they blew, I don't know what would have happened, but you have got to start from scratch. And it was interesting to sit at tables where instead of embracing this freedom to imagine something new, people began to work to restart and rebuild more institution. Faced with the loss of the familiar, we cling to what feels comfortable. We try to rebuild what we're used to because sometimes that is more comfortable or easier than the discomfort of leaning and living into the wholly unknown. Those moments and preparing this sermon made me go back and read a segment of a book called Black Imagination. It is an anthology curated by Natasha Marin. And it weaves stories from Black writers, poets, everyday Black people, her friends, her family, on our dreams, our fears, and just what it means to imagine something different. So in it, Adrienne LaFay was asked to imagine a place where they felt safe and loved. And she wrote, "It was frightening for me to think that there could possibly be a world that valued, loved, and kept me safe. I'm petrified I would leave out things that would be my innate birthright, sadly, because I lack vision to see them. I didn't realize how this question would affect me. The idea makes me feel worse knowing I might never achieve a glimpse of the what if I was loved, valued, and safe." LaFay names here how hard it is to see what doesn't yet exist. Whether in our institutions or in our own lives, we struggle to imagine life outside of the glass we've known. And yet that's the discomfort Jesus is calling out in his parables in Luke 5. Are we willing to risk a new vision, a new vessel, a new wineskin that can hold the astounding newness of the gospel? The parable of the wineskins comes right after a dispute about fasting. The Pharisees and the scribes had been watching Jesus and his disciples, and they knew that John and his disciples fasted. The scribes fasted all the time. The Pharisees fasted all the time, but Jesus' disciples were red-cheeked and full. They weren't fasting in the same way. And they asked, why don't they fast like us? Newsflash, it wasn't really about food. It's like when you and your partner, your spouse, or your children are arguing about the sock in the floor or the toothpaste. Oh, it ain't about the toothpaste. It's about something bigger, but all you can talk about right now is the toothpaste. Here, it wasn't about the food. It was about conformity and tradition. It was about keeping the boundaries of religious life clear. It was about making the new people and the new folks do and demonstrated holiness in a recognizable way. Fasting was a sign of devotion, and these new ragtag bunch of disciples did not fit the mold. And Jesus, as he is wont to do, responds in mystery wrapped in prose about wineskins, garments, and patches. About containers that can't hold the new thing God is doing. He said, you are asking the wrong question. You want me to fit my disciples into your old pattern, but the gospel will not shrink just to satisfy whatever feeling of discomfort you're having or comfort that you desire to maintain. The new simply cannot be patched into the old. In the Belief Commentary on Luke, Justo Gonzalez writes, the Pharisees wanted to treat Jesus as one more of the many wise teachers of Israel, to patch him into the old cloth. but the power of the new will not allow compromise. Luke's passage is much more than a comment about how change works. It's radical affirmation. It is an illustration of how things always work, and for us not to miss the point, to forget the newness of the gospel. To be careful not to side with the old is better. The parable is not about incremental change or low change or slow change. It's not about destroying all of the old traditions. It is about the radical newness of Christ that cannot be contained by categories of purity, respectability, or power. It's liberation that refuses to be stuck in or hemmed into the rules to keep people out or that allow you to remain the same. So the question for us is the same as it was for them. Will we cling to what feels familiar, declaring that the old is better, or will we follow God and allow them to enlarge us to something new? I thought about that as I was trying to come up with this title. I was stuck on whether I would use the word enlarge or increase. I know they sound similar, and a lot of time are used interchangeably in the text, so we won't judge anyone. After I tell you I picked what I picked, we will not judge other people who may have picked the other thing. Increase for me is about quantity, about having more, about accumulating more, about adding on top of what you already have. Increase is multiplication for me. And that can be appealing, but it's also a bit deceptive. Because sometimes increase just means busy. Increase just means more noise. It means things are louder. And it means you actually get to not engage in the real work of moving through discomfort because you have so much more to do. For me, enlarge is different. Enlarge is about quantity. It is about a greater capacity. It's about being expanded to hold what is being poured out. It's inner space, not outer accumulation. When Paul prays at Ephesians 3 that the believers would be strengthened in their inner being and that they will be able to grasp the vast dimensions of God's love, he's not praying for increase. He's praying for enlargement. He's praying for capacity. He's praying for a vessel big enough to contain what God is already doing and what God already has resource for. That's why I picked Enlarge Me. It names what God is actually moving in this season of discomfort. God is not only or simply or just giving us more. God is creating space in us, stretching us, transforming, reshaping, pouring us into something bigger than what we even thought we could handle. Enlargement makes room for the fullness of God. In Ephesians, this letter that Paul wrote to Ephesus, it was a community surrounded by empire, overshadowed by Roman power, tempted by loyalty to Caesar and Artemis. And in the midst of that, Paul don't pray, oh, let us have power. Let us be influencers. Let our content creation make a difference. He doesn't even pray for safety or status. He prays for their hearts to be enlarged, for their inner beings to be strengthened. He prays for them to be able to comprehend the breadth, the length, the width, and the depth of God's love, and that they will be filled with that goodness. Because I believe, like Paul believes, that when your inner part is strengthened, the outer part tends to itself. And then he says, one of my favorite scriptures. Now to the one, I like things addressed to the one, I don't know, anyway. Now to the one who by the power of work within us is able to accomplish, some versions say exceedingly and abundantly more than we can ask or think. Some versions and translations say imagine. That is not God being a wish giver. It's not like Aladdin or the genie in the bottle. That's God taking the limit off of your imagination. That is God stretching you beyond what you thought you could hold or contain. That is God pouring us more, giving us more, and giving us the room to get comfortable. And adding some strength so you don't collapse in the midst of it. For me, friends, this is good news. It's good news for anyone who has had the strength. It's good news for those of you who feel too much or not enough. God is asking you to trust. God is not asking you to pour yourself back into the baby glass. God is enlarging you. God is not asking or wanting you to pour the old thing back or the new thing into the old cup. You are being enlarged. And when we do it God's way, we do not burst. That new glass is your capacity for the immensity of God's divine love. But I get it. It don't mean it feel easy. Boundaries suck. I will preach that one day. They are hard, but they work. It's like this magic thing that no one wants to do, but once you do it, it actually works. It's weird. It feels awkward. It feels incomplete. And so I want you to remember as you go forth thinking about this cup, what feels like lack in this moment, what looks like emptiness is capacity and preparation. Discomfort is not a sign that you are in the wrong place. It is a sign that you are being equipped and enlarged for what is coming next. So my encouragement today is put your running shoes away. Stop running from discomfort. Invite your own self into processing and feeling what's happening in that pouring moment. Do not interpret your discomfort or the fact that now you're in this big glass with a whole lot of space as you being a failure. Don't mistake the feeling of being smaller for the reality of being less. You are not less. You are more, and there's more room for more. So this is my prayer. Enlarge me, God. Enlarge us as a people. Enlarge our hearts to hold what we thought was beyond us. Enlarge our visions to see beyond the old is better and into what we can imagine. Enlarge our courage to live in the discomfort without running back to what is familiar. Enlarge us until we can grasp the breadth and the length and the height and the depths. And once you do that, God, continue to enlarge us still. May it be so.